when a black truck driver named Marcus Hayes gets pulled over by local police in a remote town, they think it's a routine arrest. What they don't realize is the unmarked trailer he's hauling is top secret government cargo. By the time they find out, it's already too late. Before we reveal that, hit the subscribe button and drop a comment below telling us where in the world you're watching from now. Without further ado, let's get into it. The night air was thick with humidity, hanging like a heavy curtain over the long, desolate stretch of Highway 47 as Marcus Hayes guided his 18-wheeler down the cracked, faded asphalt. The faint glow of his headlights barely cut through the encroaching darkness, and the only sounds were the steady hum of the engine and the rhythmic thud of tires against uneven pavement. Marcus had driven thousands of miles in his life, crossed state lines and country roads, witnessed sunrises over deserts and storms over mountains, but something about this night felt different. The shadows seemed to move on their own, the trees leaning in closer, and the scent of rain mingled with something metallic in the air. His cargo, an unmarked trailer with no company insignia and a high-security lock, was unlike anything he'd hauled before. It was government work. He'd been told as much by a stone-faced man in a dark suit back in Denver. No paperwork, no questions, just a set of GPS coordinates, a digital key, and a strict warning. Do not stop for anyone. No exceptions. Marcus wasn't one to spook easily. Years on the road had hardened him to all manner of bizarre encounters, hitchhikers in the middle of nowhere, small-town sheriffs with too much time and too little sense, the occasional oddball passenger. But tonight, a knot of unease twisted in his gut as each mile marker passed like a ticking clock. He kept the CB radio off, his phone face down on the dashboard, and his eyes darting between the road and the mirrors. It wasn't long before the tranquility of the empty highway shattered. Red and blue lights flared in his side mirror, a sudden, jagged intrusion in the darkness. The wail of a siren followed, bouncing off the trees and cutting through the stillness like a blade. Marcus's hands tightened on the wheel. This was exactly what he'd been warned about. His mind raced through his limited options. The road ahead stretched endlessly, no exits, no turnoffs, no place to hide. The cruiser pulled alongside him, its spotlight stabbing at his cab, and a voice crackled through a loudspeaker, ordering him to pull over immediately. Gritting his teeth, Marcus eased the rig onto the shoulder, gravel crunching beneath the tires as he came to a reluctant stop. The cruiser parked behind him, and two figures emerged, one tall and wiry with a face like sun-dried leather, the other shorter and broad-shouldered, moving with a cocky swagger. Even in the poor light, Marcus could make out the smirk on the stocky cop's face. His badge read Weller. The taller one's nameplate said Harris. "Evenin', driver," Harris drawled as Marcus lowered his window. "License and registration, if you don't mind." Marcus handed over his documents without a word, keeping his expression neutral. Weller circled the rig, his gaze lingering on the unmarked trailer. "What you haulin' back there, son?" he asked, voice tinged with suspicion. "Company cargo," Marcus replied carefully. "Sealed load. Government contract. Can't open it." Weller snorted. "Federal cargo, huh? Funny, we didn't get no word about that coming through Blue Ridge." He spat a wad of chewing tobacco onto the ground. "Mind if we take a look?" "I do, actually," Marcus said, meeting Weller's gaze. "Orders are explicit. No stops, no inspections." The temperature seemed to drop a few degrees as Harris leaned closer. "Now see here, boy. You might think you can blow through our county like you own the road, but around here we enforce the law. And the law says I stop for federal marshals only," Marcus shot back, pulse pounding in his ears. The two deputies exchanged a look, something unspoken passing between them. Weller grinned. "Step out of the truck." Reluctantly, Marcus complied, his boots crunching on gravel as he climbed down. Harris grabbed his arm roughly and twisted it behind his back, slapping a pair of cold steel cuffs onto his wrists. "For your own safety," Harris muttered. "Gonna run you in while we check this load. Could be anything back there." Marcus's protests fell on deaf ears as they shoved him toward the cruiser. "I'm telling you, you don't want to open that," he warned, voice urgent. "It's above your pay grade." Weller chuckled. "We'll be the judge of that." The taller deputy climbed up to the trailer's lock, examining the high-grade security system. "Well, hell," he murmured. "Ain't seen one of these since that Homeland drill last summer." "Break it," Weller ordered. Harris retrieved a bolt cutter from the trunk of the cruiser and made quick work of the lock, the heavy latch clanging to the ground. As the trailer doors creaked open, a gust of icy air spilled out, unnatural and frigid against the humid night. Both deputies peered inside, their cockiness giving way to confusion, then unease. The trailer's interior was dominated by a sleek metallic container, the surface matte black with intricate control panels blinking softly. Government seals and biohazard warnings adorned its sides, and a soft, rhythmic beeping echoed in the confined space. "What in God's name is that?" Harris whispered. Weller's hand went to his sidearm. "Some kind of bomb? Bioweapon?" he muttered. He stepped onto the trailer floor, moving closer to the container. The beeping quickened, and a low, mechanical hum filled the air. A small hatch on the container's side slid open with a hiss, revealing a dark chamber inside. Weller leaned in, trying to make out what was within. The darkness seemed to move, a subtle shift of shadow, and then a figure emerged, humanoid in form but utterly alien in appearance. Its skin was a smooth obsidian black, reflecting the flickering trailer lights like polished stone. Eyes glowed a cold, electric blue, devoid of pupils. It wore a seamless containment suit, marked with symbols neither deputy recognized. Weller stumbled back. "Jesus, Harris!" "Shoot it!" Harris fumbled with his weapon, raising it, but the figure moved with impossible speed, raising a hand and releasing a pulse of bluish light. The two deputies dropped like rag dolls, unconscious before they hit the ground. Marcus, still in the back of the cruiser, saw the flash through the windshield, felt the tremor beneath his feet. His heart pounded as the figure stepped down from the trailer and approached the police car. For a moment, their eyes met, man and entity. The creature's gaze wasn't hostile, merely clinical, as if assessing a specimen. Then the cruiser's locks disengaged with a click. Marcus hesitated. The cuffs around his wrists fell, open on their own, clattering to the seat. Slowly, Marcus pushed the door open and stepped out. The figure gestured toward the truck's cab. In a voice that wasn't a voice, more like a low-frequency vibration within his skull, it spoke a single word: drive. Marcus swallowed hard. He had 1,000 questions, but none of them mattered now. He climbed back into the cab, the figure sliding in beside him. Red and blue lights flickered in the distance as other cruisers responded to the earlier radio calls. Marcus's hands gripped the wheel. "Where to?" he asked, voice hoarse. The figure handed him a small black card, unmarked save for a string of numbers, 314EXO. "Follow the coordinates," the being said. "Do not deviate. They must not find us." Marcus hit the accelerator, tires kicking up gravel as the rig roared back onto the highway. Behind them, the unconscious deputies lay in the dirt, and the beeping from the container subsided into a steady hum. Marcus knew one thing as the miles unspooled before him. This night was far from over, and he'd crossed a line into a world he was never meant to see. The sun had not yet risen, but a faint lightening of the horizon suggested dawn was not far off as Marcus Hayes kept his 18-wheeler barreling down the narrow service road, the rig's tires chewing up gravel and broken asphalt with relentless determination. The night had not loosened its grip on the landscape, a heavy darkness still hanging in the air, but Marcus's world had narrowed to the road ahead and the figure seated beside him in the cab. The being, he couldn't think of it as a man, had said little since ordering him to drive. Its face, if you could call it that, was concealed behind a matte black helmet with a single unblinking blue light at the center. The suit it wore was seamless, a kind of second skin with strange, shifting symbols that occasionally flickered like static before resolving into unfamiliar glyphs. Marcus had spent his life hauling cargo, but nothing like this. The steady hum of the engine did little to drown out the questions in his head, though none of them had answers. He glanced at the black card resting on the dashboard, the string of numbers 314EXO, seeming both meaningless and ominous in equal measure. Every instinct screamed at him to ditch the rig, to run, But he'd seen what this being could do back at the roadside stop, how it had dropped those deputies with a simple pulse of light, and how it had unlocked his restraints without a touch. He wasn't about to test its patience. Ahead, the GPS unit chimed softly, indicating a turnoff Marcus hadn't noticed on any of his earlier passes through this region. The narrow path veered into dense woodland, trees leaning close enough that their branches brushed against the rig's sides. He hesitated, but the figure beside him spoke, its voice again that peculiar vibration in his head. Proceed. Marcus swallowed hard and made the turn. The rig's headlights cut narrow paths through the dense undergrowth, the world narrowing further with each passing moment. Overhead, the first hints of dawn began to paint the sky a faint purple, but the oppressive gloom beneath the trees remained. As they drove deeper, Marcus's thoughts drifted back to the cargo, that container in the trailer with its humming panels and biohazard warnings. He'd seen a lot of weird loads over the years, even classified military transports, but nothing that set his teeth on edge like this. Whatever lay inside that sleek, metal coffin wasn't meant for public eyes, and yet here he was playing chauffeur to something right out of a government nightmare. Without warning, the figure reached forward and switched off the GPS unit. Marcus stiffened. "Hey, I need that." "Coordinates are memorized," the figure replied. "Deviation is inadvisable." Marcus gritted his teeth but said nothing. He risked another glance at his passenger. "What are you?" There's a pause, then, "Containment operative." "For what?" Marcus asked, unable to keep the tremor from his voice. "Classified biological asset. Threat assessment. Extreme." The words hit like a physical blow. "You mean to tell me there's something back there that could wipe us out?" "Negative," the figure answered, and for a moment, Marcus felt a flicker of relief before the being added. "It could eliminate this region, but operational protocol prevents release. Extraction is priority." Marcus felt sweat bead along his brow. He focused on the road, not wanting to imagine what eliminate this region entailed. The path ahead began to widen, revealing a clearing where several black SUVs and armored vehicles waited in a semicircle. Men in tactical gear, faces obscured by helmets and visors, stood with weapons at the ready. Spotlights flared to life, illuminating the rig as it rolled to a stop. "Looks like your extraction's here," Marcus muttered. But the figure didn't move. Instead, it spoke again, voice a low hum of warning. "Hostile." Marcus's heart skipped a beat. The armed men weren't allies. As if on cue, one of the vehicles blared a loudspeaker. "Driver, shut off the engine and step out with your hands up." Marcus froze. "They're not your people?" "Mercenaries," the figure confirmed. "Intercept attempt." Panic surged in Marcus's chest. "So what now?" The figure didn't answer with words. Instead, it reached into a compartment on its suit and retrieved a small device, a sphere no larger than a baseball. Symbols on its surface flared to life as it activated the object, which levitated slightly before darting toward the clearing. Marcus watched wide-eyed as it hovered above the mercenaries and emitted a high-frequency pulse. The armed men dropped their weapons, clutching their heads as the pulse disrupted their senses. Marcus didn't wait for an invitation. He jammed the rig into gear and slammed the accelerator. The 18-wheeler lurched forward, crashing through the weakened perimeter. The remaining mercenaries scrambled to recover, but the rig's sheer mass sent them diving for cover. Rounds pinged off the trailer's armored sides, but none penetrated. "Where am I going?" Marcus shouted. The figure pointed to a narrow service tunnel at the edge of the clearing, partially concealed by foliage. "There." Marcus didn't argue. He veered the rig into the tunnel, the trailer barely clearing the entrance. Inside, the space was tight, walls scraping against the trailer's sides, but it was cover, temporary safety. The tunnel curved and sloped downward, the darkness absolute save for the rig's headlights. Marcus's pulse thundered in his ears. He stole a glance at the figure. "You gonna explain what's in that thing?" "Prototype," the operative replied. "Failed experiment. Containment failed at initial facility. Secondary containment en route to secure sector." Marcus's mind reeled. What kind of experiment? A beat of silence. Genetic hybridization, cross-species synthesis, unauthorized by governing council. Marcus swore under his breath. He wasn't a scientist, but he'd seen enough sci-fi flicks to know that those words spelled disaster. Why me? He demanded. Why was I hauling this damn thing? Operational criteria selected for resilience, discretion, and psychological profile under duress. You qualified. The tunnel began to widen, opening into an underground chamber where an old, disused service depot lay dormant. Dust-coated abandoned equipment and rusted rail tracks hinted at a forgotten era. Marcus brought the rig to a halt. Now what? The figure rose. Secure facility is 2 kilometers south. Egress by foot inadvisable. Secondary transport required. As if on cue, a secured communication device on the dashboard crackled to life, a voice cutting through the static. Echo 1 confirm status. Over. The operative, Echo 1, apparently tapped the device. Cargo intact. Hostile intercept neutralized. Requesting secondary evac. Confirmed, the voice replied. ETA 10 minutes. Hold position. Marcus slumped back in his seat. And what about me? Echo 1 regarded him. You will be debriefed. Compensation protocols engaged. You mean they're going to kill me? Negative. Asset protocol acknowledges civilian involvement. Memory adjustment authorized. Marcus's blood ran cold. You're going to wipe my memory? Echo 1 didn't confirm or deny it. Debrief team will determine final disposition. Marcus rubbed his face with trembling hands. This is insane. Footsteps echoed in the tunnel behind them. Echo 1 turned sharply, drawing a sleek weapon that shimmered with barely contained energy. Multiple contacts, it announced, remain here. Without another word, it moved toward the shadows, vanishing into the darkness as easily as mist. Marcus reached for the device Echo 1 left on the dashboard. He knew he shouldn't, but the need to survive overpowered caution. Gripping it tightly, he slipped from the cab and crouched behind a stack of old crates. More figures appeared in the gloom, mercenaries judging by their gear. A brief firefight erupted, flashes of light and muffled cries punctuating the silence. Marcus's breathing grew ragged. If they caught him now, he was dead. A sudden explosion rocked the chamber, sending dust and debris cascading from the ceiling. Echo 1 reappeared, a dark blur moving faster than Marcus could track. Extraction inbound, it called, "We move." Where's the cargo? Marcus yelled. Trailer secure. Secondary lock engaged. Cannot be compromised. A sleek, black VTOL aircraft descended through a hidden ceiling hatch, its engines a low whisper. A ramp extended. Echo 1 gestured. Now. Marcus didn't hesitate. He sprinted toward the ramp as the remaining mercenaries regrouped. Rounds ricocheted around him, but he dove into the craft as Echo 1 covered his retreat. The VTOL lifted, hatch ceiling behind them. Through the viewport, Marcus saw the depot collapsing as charges detonated, erasing evidence of their presence. The cargo, whatever it was, remained aboard the rig as automated controls guided it toward a secondary destination. Marcus sagged into a seat, adrenaline draining away. Echo 1 approached, raising a hand to his temple. Sleep. The world tilted, darkened, and then disappeared. The darkness gave way to a muted gray haze as Marcus Hayes stirred, a dull ache radiating from the base of his skull. His surroundings were alien, sterile white walls, a faint antiseptic tang in the air, and the quiet hum of machinery. A soft, pulsating light framed the edges of the ceiling, casting the chamber in an artificial glow. For a moment, Marcus struggled to piece together where he was, memory fragments dancing just out of reach. The rig, the figure in the suit, the firefight in the tunnel, it felt like a fevered dream. He sat up abruptly, his pulse pounding. A figure approached, clad in a crisp gray uniform devoid of insignia. Her expression was unreadable, eyes shielded behind pale lenses that glinted in the synthetic light. "Mr. Hayes," she spoke, voice smooth and modulated. "You've been stabilized. Disorientation is expected. Where am I?" Marcus rasped, throat dry, secure debriefing sector. Facility designation classified. He swung his legs off the narrow cot, noting that his clothes had been replaced with a utilitarian gray jumpsuit. Is it over? That thing, the cargo? The woman regarded him impassively. The asset is contained. Secondary protocols have been enacted. You are to undergo standard civilian remediation. Marcus's stomach twisted. Memory wipe. It wasn't a question. The woman inclined her head. Your involvement exceeded clearance thresholds. Directive mandates cognitive adjustment to prevent dissemination of sensitive data. Marcus rose to his feet, swaying slightly. I deserve answers first. The woman gestured to a recessed alcove where a display flickered to life, a series of images and schematics scrolling past. Operation Harbinger, she began. A failed initiative to create an adaptable biological warfare unit. The subject was engineered for hostile environments, integrating alien DNA harvested from a deep space artifact recovered by Black Site personnel. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. Alien DNA? You're telling me that thing wasn't human? Correct, she replied. Its genetic structure surpasses human resilience by a factor of 20. Its containment was compromised 2 weeks ago, following an internal sabotage event. The operative designated Echo, one was tasked with asset retrieval and neutralization of witnesses. Including me, Marcus growled. Initially, yes. However, your compliance and critical actions during the intercept elevated your survival probability index. Senior Command authorized temporary exemption pending debrief. Marcus clenched his fists. I saved that thing's life. I drove through gunfire, took orders from whatever the hell that was. I deserve more than an erased memory. The woman's gaze didn't waver. Civilians encountering Harbinger-class assets are typically terminated. Your reprieve is anomalous. Before Marcus could reply, the display shifted, showing live surveillance feeds. The rig, his rig, was parked in an enormous underground hangar, the cargo container still sealed. Echo, one stood nearby, conferring with a cluster of similarly clad operatives. Marcus squinted. Is it still in there? For now, she answered. A decision remains pending regarding its termination or recontainment. A warning klaxon sounded, the lighting in the chamber shifting to amber. The woman stiffened, tapping a device at her wrist. Report. A disembodied voice crackled over hidden speakers. Containment breach in Sector 7. Harbinger, asset active. Repeat, asset active. Marcus's stomach lurched. You lost it. The woman didn't answer. She turned to the door. Remain here. Like hell? Marcus snapped, already moving. He grabbed a metal instrument from a nearby tray. Crude, but weighty. I'm not sitting around waiting for a lobotomy while that thing gets loose. The woman drew a sleek weapon. Civilians stand down. But Marcus had already thrown the makeshift weapon, the distraction enough for him to dart past her as alarms howled through the corridors. The facility was a maze of stark white hallways and sealed doors. Personnel in identical uniforms moved with hurried precision, some barking orders, others retreating to secure points. Marcus kept moving, guided by instinct and adrenaline. He ducked into a maintenance corridor, following the source of distant gunfire and the pulsing red lights that illuminated the path. Ahead, a glass observation window overlooked the hangar. Chaos reigned below. The Harbinger creature, larger now, its obsidian form shifting with unnatural fluidity, moved through squads of armed operatives. Energy weapons flared, but the thing was too fast. It incapacitated them with pulses of bluish light or physical strikes that sent bodies flying. Echo, one fought alongside them, moving with practiced precision, but even it seemed outmatched. Marcus scanned the area, spotting his rig still intact. A desperate plan formed. If he could reach the cargo container, maybe he could use it as bait, lure the creature away, or at least create a distraction. He doubled back, slipping through a service hatch and into the hangar proper. The air was thick with the acrid scent of scorched metal and ozone. Marcus kept low, weaving between overturned equipment and debris. He reached the rig just as Echo, one was thrown against a support pillar, its suit sparking. The Harbinger creature turned, sensing Marcus. Its eyes glowed a deeper blue, recognition in its gaze. Marcus swallowed his fear. Hey, you want me? Come and get me. He scrambled into the cab, praying the engine still functioned. It roared to life, the sound deafening in the enclosed space. Marcus threw it into gear and gunned the accelerator, aiming the rig directly at the creature. The Harbinger moved, but Marcus anticipated it. Swerving at the last second, the trailer's reinforced side caught the creature mid-lunge, pinning it against a bulkhead. The impact rattled Marcus's bones. Now, a voice shouted. Echo 1, battered but standing, hurled a containment device toward the pinned entity. It deployed midair, expanding into a shimmering energy field that enveloped the creature. The Harbinger shrieked, the sound a chorus of alien and human agony. The field pulsed, constricting. Marcus killed the engine and stumbled out as the containment sealed. The creature writhed, then fell still. Silence descended over the hangar, broken only by the hiss of venting gas and the flicker of failing lights. Echo 1 approached, helmet cracked but functional. Civilian haze, it rasped. Operational assist acknowledged. Marcus managed a weak grin. Just doing my part. Facility personnel swarmed the hangar, securing the area and tending to the wounded. The woman from earlier reappeared, her expression unreadable. Your actions have been recorded. Memory adjustment protocol suspended pending senior review. Marcus nodded, too exhausted to argue. Good, 'cause I want to remember this. Echo 1 placed a data chip in his hand. For your protection, should events recur. Marcus pocketed it, understanding unspoken. The facility light stabilized, and a new team of operatives moved the immobilized Harbinger toward a reinforced vault. As Marcus watched it disappear behind massive doors, he knew this wasn't the end. Somewhere, others like it existed, and someone had decided humanity's survival was a gamble worth making. He turned to Echo 1. You owe me a drink. The operative's eyes, briefly visible through the cracked visor, glinted with something close to amusement. Affirmative. And for the first time in a long while, Marcus Hayes laughed.